What's going on, everybody? Tom here with Black Sheep Keto, and welcome to another free ketogenic recipe just for you subscribers out there. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to help the YouTube algorithm promote my content. Now today we're making a delicious keto panna cotta fat bomb. And I say it's a fat bomb because just the natural macros that occur in a panna cotta, it ends up being quite high in fat and low in basically every other macro. So really great for the ketogenic diet, as well as something that is very, very simple. Now, simple is great because I have been out of town for the better part of a month now, so I do apologize that videos have been coming a little bit slow, but don't worry, I'm back now and creating. So guys, if you are interested in the full written recipe and macros, that is down in the description box. And for those of you who want to watch the full video and help me out, hang on tight and let's get right into it. Now let's go ahead and get started on our delicious keto panna cotta. Now all of the ingredients you see laid out here is for the panna cotta itself, and we'll cover that strawberry reduction a little bit later on. Now right here, I do have a small to medium sized saucepan over a medium high heat, and I just turned it on to start warming up. Now let's get going with our panna cotta ingredients. Now first things first, we have some water and some gelatin. This is 1/3 cup of water, and we're not gonna pour it all in. Just give it a little bit, I don't know, maybe half of it. Just get a little bit in there to heat up. And then add 1.5 teaspoons of gelatin. And of course, we're gonna stir this together with a rubber-coated whisk so we don't damage our pan. And just keep whisking this and adding a little bit more water progressively until all of the clumps of gelatin disappear and all of the water is used up. It should be kind of a thicker brown liquid. Now, as a note, you can use any gelatin you want. I prefer using bovine gelatin or beef gelatin, whatever you see it labeled as, but any unflavored gelatin that you can find will work, including those little knots, whatever it's called, those little packets you get at the grocery store. Those will also work if that's what you've got available. So now, as you can see, I've done a little bit of whisking on here. It doesn't clump as much if you have your heat a little bit lower. I spent a little too long talking to the camera, so that water boiled the second I poured it in there. But normally that won't happen if you do it in enough time. I just, like to ramble to all you guys. In any case, there are no more clumps in here. We kind of have this thick brown jello mixture. And now we're gonna add in 1¼ cup of heavy whipping cream. And we'll go ahead and give that a quick mixing. Now, as a somewhat important note that I should mention right now, we do not want this cream to ever boil. We're gonna have some heat on it to allow us to dissolve the sweeteners we're gonna add in a second, but you don't want this thing to boil. Just make sure you keep the temperature a little bit under control. So now that I've said that, it is time to add some sweeteners. So right here I have 1/4 cup of Lakanto's monk fruit and erythritol blend, and this is the granular variety. We're just gonna pour that in there and whisk it. Now, erythritol can saturate liquids fairly easily. I've made sure that with this quantity of the erythritol monk fruit blend, it will not hypersaturate the liquid, so you won't get that weird gritty texture. If you've ever worked with the erythritol and you've put it in some liquid and while it's hot, it's nice and clear, but when it cools down, it gets gritty. That's a result of the erythritol saturating the solution that it's dissolved in. This amount will not do that. If you try to use a lot more than this for whatever reason, I think it's sweet enough, but if you were to, it might get gritty. Just fair warning there. But let's go ahead and add in our 1/4 cup. And lastly, we are gonna add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now I am gonna keep stirring this until we reach that slightest indication of a simmer, so just some bubbles starting to form, not a boil, just a slight simmer, at which case we will turn off the heat and I will show you guys how to pour this into the ramekins or whatever type of serving apparatus you're gonna be using. So we have reached our first little sign of a simmer. Again, not a boil, just the first indication that a simmer might happen, and went ahead and turned off our heat here. Continue to mix it for just a second to make sure it doesn't boil up on you. So now it's time to talk about how we're gonna cool these. And what I like to do, honestly, is just use ramekins like this, and then they pop out really easily for serving later on. But they also look really pretty in wine glasses, depending on what you want to do. So since this is going to make 4 servings, I went ahead and grabbed 2 ramekins and 2 wine glasses. And we're just going to go ahead and evenly distribute the liquid between all 4 of these vessels. No, that looks fair enough to me. Actually, they look very even, surprisingly, considering I was just kind of eyeballing it there. And really, that's the best way to do it. It's not worth trying to measure it out. Just eyeball it to split it amongst the 4 of them. Now what you're gonna do is leave these on the counter for about 10 minutes so that they cool down a little bit, and then put them in your refrigerator for between 2 and 4 hours. If you plan on saving these for a couple days from now or whatever, they actually hold really well in the refrigerator. I would just mind the expiration date on your heavy whipping cream, and that's really the only thing that can expire in here. But what I would do is just cover them in some saran wrap, that way the top doesn't evaporate off and leave a crust on there, and these will hold for quite some time in the refrigerator. So we are going to be making that strawberry reduction sauce a little bit later, but if that's not something you're interested in and you just want this to be the pure panna cotta fat bomb, they are ready to go. Just make sure you keep these things in the refrigerator, and 2 to 4 hours from now, you'll have a delicious fat bomb on your hands. And for those of you who do want that strawberry reduction, just hang a couple seconds and I'll be back when it's time to make that. Now our panna cotta themselves are well on their way to being chilled, so it's time to start our strawberry sauce. That way it has ample time to cool down before we're gonna go ahead and top our panna cotta with it. So go ahead and get a slightly larger saucepan, or you could even reuse the one from step 1 here, and get it over medium heat. Now in this bowl right here, I have 12 strawberries that I've cut into quarters, and we're gonna put, half to 3/4 of it in there now. Just reserve a little bit for later on, but get most of them dumped into the pan. That looks good to me. This gives it a little bit of texture because these strawberries are going to cook down all the way. We just want a little bit for later on to give you some nice strawberry bites. Now to the strawberries in this pan, we are going to be adding 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. And lastly, we're going to be adding 1.5 tablespoons of a confectioner's or powdered monk fruit and erythritol blend. This one is Lakanto, but there are a couple other companies that make it. It's just make sure you get a monk fruit and erythritol blend. That is the confectioner's variety. So go ahead and dump that in there. And we're just going to continue to stir this periodically for the next 10-15 minutes. You'll notice these strawberries are going to cook down into a nice syrup, and obviously all the clumps of sweetener are going to disappear through this process. So just keep stirring it until you've got a nice thick syrup available in this pan. Now our strawberries, as you can see here, have created quite the delicious looking sauce, and it smells absolutely amazing. As a note, you don't want this to boil, otherwise it'll kind of thicken up too much and a lot will evaporate. Just let it stay about a medium heat, but not simmering. And then we'll take these last few little strawberries we have here and go ahead and toss them in. This is just for texture, since the original strawberries are now basically part of the sauce. And that's about it. This sauce is ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. And we'll let this come down to a room temperature so that we don't obviously melt our panna cotta with pouring hot sauce over it. So that, guys, I am gonna go ahead and put the finished product up on the screen right now, and then I will catch up with you all for the taste test. So now that you guys have seen the recipe and the finished product, it is time for the taste test. Now I have both variations, as you can see over here. We did one in the wine glass and one on a plate. Let me just hold those up so you guys can see it. I'm not sure which one is going to be in the finished product, but those are both the variations we have here. And to extract these from the ramekins, just take it under like a hot sink and roll it around the edges of the ramekin and flip it upside down. That loosens the molding right on the edge, kind of melts it a little bit, and it should just flip right out onto a plate. So I think for today's taste test, I'm going to be tasting the one on the plate, since that one looks too pretty to eat right now, right? So let's give this a go. This is the Keto Panna Cotta with the strawberry reduction. I have also done this with raspberries, but I find them to be a little bit too seedy. Anyway, let's give it a bite. That is insanely good, guys. Now the panna cotta is sweet, but it's not over the top sweet, as I think a good panna cotta should be. And a lot of the real sweetness from this comes from the berries, which is a natural sweetened ingredient. Obviously we did put a little bit of that powdered Lakanto to sweeten it up a little bit, but the syrup from the strawberries is quite sweet, and it ends up being a very nice dish. You get a lot of that sweetness and kind of sour from the berries, and then it's balanced off with the creamy richness of the panna cotta. This would actually go really well with a cup of golden ratio coffee, and if you guys have not tried it, make sure you check out blacksheepketo.com/coffee to get a discount off of yours. Yes, little shameless plug right there. Now I know I mentioned this earlier, but if you guys want to make this and store it for a little while, just to have a kind of nightly snack, something that's a bit of a fat bomb just to have on hand, this will work well. Make sure you get them in an airtight container, and they'll hold in your fridge basically as long as your heavy whipping cream has not expired. So check the expiration date on your heavy whipping cream, and you should be good to go. Now, as always, the full written recipe and macros are going to be down in the description box below. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that for me, leave them down in the comment section. If you like this video, leave it a like. And if you have not yet subscribed, guys, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. And of course, I cannot forget, we must thank our supporters over on Patreon, since they are the ones who make that possible.